Hi kids, I'm Aunt Vickey and I'm here to read the story hour today. It's brought to you by Citizens. I love reading to you guys, and I know that you're probably looking forward to having somebody read to you, so just relax. Don't worry about homework or school or anything else. Just enjoy the read. And if you want your own special book read to you, just tell mom or dad or your grandparents. All they have to do is write down the book that you want read, and you guys just drop it by Citizens, and you just might see your book read to you next week. So this week we're going to read Little Red Riding Hood. It's a really good story. I've read to a lot of children who love this story, and I've had several that wanted me to read it, so I'm going to read it to you today. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there was a little girl who lived in a village near the forest. Whenever she went out, the little girl wore a red riding cloak, so everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood asked her mother if she could go to visit her grandmother, as it had been a long time since she'd seen her. "That's a good idea," her mother said, so they packed a nice little basket for Little Red Riding Hood to take to her grandmother. When the basket was ready, the little girl put on her red cloak and kissed her mother goodbye. "Remember, go straight to Grandma's house," her mother cautioned. "Don't dawdle along the way, and please don't talk to strangers. The woods are very dangerous," her mother said. "Don't worry, Mommy," said Little Red Riding Hood. "I'll be very careful." But when Little Red Riding Hood noticed some lovely flowers in the woods, she forgot her promise to her mother. She picked a few, watched the butterflies flit around for a while, listened to the frogs croaking, and then she picked a few more. Little Red Riding Hood was enjoying the warm summer day so much that she didn't notice a dark shadow approaching out of the forest behind her. Suddenly, the wolf appeared beside her. "What are you doing out here, little girl?" the wolf asked in a voice as friendly as he could muster. "I'm on my way to see my grandma who lives through the forest near the brook," Little Red Riding Hood said. Then she realized how late she was and quickly excused herself, rushing down the path to her grandma's house. The wolf, in the meantime, took a shortcut. The wolf, a little out of breath from running, arrived at Grandma's and knocked lightly at the door. "Oh, thank goodness, dear. Come in, come in. I was worried sick that something had happened to you in the forest," said Grandma, thinking that the knock was her granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf let himself in. Poor Granny didn't have time to say another word before the wolf gobbled her up. The wolf let out a satisfied burp, and then he poked through Granny's wardrobe to find a nightgown that he liked. He added a frilly sleeping cap, and for good measure, dabbed some of Granny's perfume behind his pointy ears. A few minutes later, Red Riding Hood knocked on the door. The wolf jumped into bed and pulled the covers over his nose. "Who is it?" he called in a cackly voice. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Oh, how lovely. Do come in, my dear," croaked the wolf. When Little Red Riding Hood entered the little cottage, she could scarcely recognize her grandmother. "Grandmother, your voice sounds so odd. Is something the matter?" she asked. "Oh, I just have a touch of a cold," squeaked the wolf, as he added a cough at the end to prove the point. "But grandmother, what big ears you have," said Little Red Riding Hood as she edged closer to the bed. "Oh, the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Oh, the better to see you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "But grandmother, what big teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. Her voice was quivering slightly and she was scared. "The better to eat you with, my dear," roared the wolf, and he leapt out of the bed and he began to chase the little girl. Almost too late, Little Red Riding Hood realized that the person in the bed was not her grandmother, but the hungry, mean wolf. She ran across the room and through the door shouting, "Help! Help! Wolf! Wolf!" as loudly as she could. A woodsman who was chopping logs nearby heard her cry, and he ran towards the cottage as fast as he could. He grabbed the wolf and made him spit out the poor grandmother, who was a bit frazzled by the whole experience, but she was still in one piece. "Oh, Grandma, I was so scared," cried Little Red Riding Hood. "I'll never speak to strangers or dawdle in the forest again." There, child. You've learned a very important lesson. Thank goodness you shouted loud enough for this kind woodsman to hear you. The woodsman knocked out the wolf and he carried him down into the forest where he would never bother any people any longer. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother had a nice lunch and a very long chat. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed the story, but there's a very good story there. Sometimes you don't want to listen to Mommy and Daddy, but the advice they give you is some good advice. So if they tell you not to dawdle, not to be out after dark, or not to talk to strangers, it's because they care about you and they want to protect you. So be very careful when you're out. And if you want to hear another story or a different story, then remember, just write down the story that you want and we'll be happy to read it to you. Aunt Vicky's telling you bye now.